The year is 60 AD. You are a Roman veteran, hiding in the dark. You are inside the Temple of Claudius, a massive stone building in the city of Camulodunum, modern-day Colchester, England. The air is choking with smoke. The city outside is gone. You can hear the wooden houses collapsing. You can hear the screams of the merchants, the women, and the children. You have been trapped in this temple for 2 days. You have no food. You have no water. But worse than the thirst is the noise outside the heavy bronze doors. It is the sound of 100,000 people screaming for your blood. They are not an army. They are a force of pure, absolute vengeance. They do not want to conquer you. They do not want your gold. They want to erase the very concept of Rome from their island. Suddenly, the bronze doors begin to glow red from the outside. The screaming gets louder. They are burning the temple down with you inside it. We are taught that the Roman Empire brought civilization, roads, and order to the ancient world. But we rarely talk about the price of that order. Here on AG Chronicle, we document the moments when the conquered refused to kneel. If you think revenge is a dish best served cold, you haven't seen it served with fire. Every subscription, every like, helps us dig through the ashes to find the truth. Now let's step out into the reign of ancient Britain, because the queen has been whipped and her daughters are bleeding, and the Roman Empire is about to pay the bill. To understand the rage that burned Britain to the ground, you have to understand the sheer, blinding arrogance of Roman bureaucracy. Britain was a new province. Rome had only invaded a few decades earlier. To keep the peace, the Romans made deals with local kings. One of these kings was Prasutagus, ruler of the Iceni tribe. Prasutagus wanted to protect his family. When he died, he left a will. He gave half his kingdom to the Roman emperor, Nero, and the other half to his wife and his 2 teenage daughters. He thought this would buy Rome's protection. He was incredibly naive. When Prasutagus died, the Roman financial officer in Britain, a greedy, ruthless man named Quintus Decianus, ignored the will completely. He rode into the Iceni capital with his soldiers. He didn't just take half the kingdom, he took everything. He confiscated the land. He took the nobles as slaves. When the widowed queen protested, Quintus Decianus decided to make an example of her. He ordered his soldiers to strip her naked in front of her people. They tied her to a post and whipped her until her back was shredded. Then, to ensure the royal bloodline was completely humiliated, he ordered the soldiers to assault her 2 teenage daughters. Quintus Decianus packed up his stolen gold and rode back to his comfortable office. Thinking he had pacified a barbaric tribe, he didn't know he had just lit a match in a powder keg. The queen's name was Boudica. Boudica did not break. She weaponized her trauma. The Roman historian Cassius Dio described her as terrifying. She was very tall, with a harsh voice and a mass of brilliant red hair that fell down to her knees. She wore a thick gold necklace and held a spear. She didn't just rally the Iceni, she rode to the neighboring tribes that historically hated each other, and showed them her scars. She showed them her daughters. She told them, if they do this to a queen, what will they do to you? The tribes united. Overnight, Boudica was at the head of an army of 100,000 furious Britons. Their first target was the city of Camulodunum. It was a settlement of retired Roman soldiers. The citizens realized the horde was coming. They sent a frantic message to Quintus Decianus, the man who started this, begging for troops. Decianus sent 200 men, without weapons. When Boudica's army hit the city, it wasn't a battle. It was an extermination. The city had no walls. The Britons slaughtered everyone they found. They burned the houses. The last Roman survivors locked themselves in the Temple of Claudius, but Boudica simply burned it to the ground. Rome tried to respond. The 9th Legion, a force of 5,000 elite soldiers, marched to stop her. Boudica ambushed them in the woods. The Roman infantry was annihilated. Only the cavalry commander managed to escape with his life. When Quintus Decianus heard that an entire Roman legion had been wiped out, he didn't try to defend the province. The arrogant bureaucrat ran to the docks, got on a boat, and fled to Gaul, leaving Britain to burn. But there was another Roman in Britain. The Roman governor, Suetonius Paulinus, was a hardened, cold-blooded military genius. When the rebellion broke out, Suetonius was on the other side of the country, in Wales. He was busy massacring Druids on the island of Anglesey. When he got the message that the East was in flames, he force-marched his veteran legions across the country. He rode ahead to Londinium, modern-day London. London was a booming, wealthy merchant town. The citizens saw the governor arrive and cheered. They thought they were saved. But Suetonius looked at the city. He looked at his tired, small army, and he did the cold math of a Roman general. London couldn't be defended. If he stayed, his army would die, and Britain would be lost forever. He told the citizens of London, "I am leaving. Anyone who can march, come with me. Anyone who stays will die." The merchants wept. They begged him to stay. But Suetonius turned his horse around and marched his army out of the city. A few days later, Boudica arrived. The fury of the Britons was absolute. They did not take prisoners. They did not want slaves. They didn't want to sell captives for ransom. They only wanted blood. They slaughtered every man, woman, and child left in London. They hung the noble women in the temples, cutting off their breasts and sewing them to their mouths. Then they set London on fire. They burned it so hot and so thoroughly that if you dig down beneath the modern streets of London today, archaeologists still find a thick layer of red, melted ash. It is called the Boudican Destruction Horizon. Boudica had burned 3 major cities. She had killed 80,000 people. She was unstoppable. But Suetonius had used the time to find the perfect place to fight. Suetonius had 10,000 men. Boudica had somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000. If they fought on an open plain, the Romans would be surrounded and crushed. So Suetonius chose a very specific spot, likely somewhere along Watling Street. He found a narrow gorge with a thick, impenetrable forest at his back. The gorge opened up into a wide plain. This meant the Britons could not attack him from the rear. They couldn't flank him on the sides. They had to come straight at him, funneling their massive numbers into a narrow gap. Boudica's army arrived. They were so confident of victory that they brought their families. They parked a massive ring of wooden wagons at the back of the battlefield, so their wives and children could sit on the carts and watch the Romans be destroyed. It was a fatal, tragic mistake. Boudica rode up and down the lines in her chariot, her red hair flying, her daughters beside her. She shouted that she was not fighting as a queen who lost her wealth, but as a mother who lost her daughter's purity. Suetonius walked among his silent, disciplined veterans. He told them, "Ignore the noise of these savages. There are more women than men among them. Throw your javelins, draw your swords, and do not stop stabbing." The Britons charged, 100,000 screaming warriors sprinting toward the Roman line. The noise was deafening. The Romans stood perfectly still, silent. They waited until the Britons were 40 yards away. Then the centurions blew the whistles. 10,000 heavy Roman javelins, pila, flew into the air. These weren't normal spears. The metal tips were designed to bend on impact. When they hit the Britons' shields, they bent, making the shields impossible to hold. The Britons dropped their shields and kept running. Then a second volley of 10,000 javelins hit the unprotected crowd. The front ranks of the Britons were shredded. Before the Britons could recover, Suetonius gave the order. The Romans didn't wait to be attacked. They advanced. They formed a wedge, a V-shape, and drove into the massive crowd like a snowplow. Roman combat was mechanical. You keep your shield up. You thrust your short sword, the gladius, into the enemy's stomach. You step over the body. You do it again. Thrust, step, thrust, step. The Britons were packed so tightly into the narrow gorge that they couldn't swing their long swords. They couldn't dodge. They were being pushed forward by their own people in the back, straight into the Roman meat grinder. Panic set in. The Britons at the front tried to run away, but they couldn't, because they had parked their own wagons in a massive ring behind them. The Britons were trapped against their own families. The retreat turned into a catastrophic crush. The Roman legionaries, filled with cold fury for the burning of their cities, showed absolutely zero mercy. They hacked through the warriors. They hacked through the women. They even slaughtered the baggage animals. By the time the sun went down, 80,000 Britons lay dead on the field. The Romans lost 400 men. Boudica did not survive. The Roman historian Tacitus writes that she managed to escape the battlefield, but realizing her rebellion was broken and her people destroyed, she drank poison. She refused to be captured and dragged through the streets of Rome in chains. Suetonius Paulinus had saved the province, but his subsequent revenge against the surviving tribes was so brutal, so unnecessarily cruel, that the Emperor Nero actually fired him. Rome realized that if they kept slaughtering the Britons, there would be no one left to tax. The rebellion of Boudica is a story of staggering extremes. It is the story of how the arrogance of one corrupt official cost the lives of nearly 200,000 people. It is the story of a mother's trauma transforming into a fire that burned a country to the bedrock. And it is the terrifying proof of why the Roman military was the most dangerous machine of the ancient world. You could have all the passion, all the numbers, and all the righteous anger in the world. But if you charged a prepared Roman legion, you were going to die. Today there is a massive bronze statue of Boudica and her daughters riding a chariot. It sits right next to the Houses of Parliament in London, the very city she burned to the ground. She is remembered not as a monster but as a symbol of resistance, a reminder that even the greatest empires on earth can bleed, and that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to a conquered people is push them into a corner where they have nothing left to lose. Thank you for watching AG Chronicle. If you believe that the ghosts of the past still have lessons to teach us today, hit that subscribe button. We are walking the battlefields of history so we don't repeat them in the future.